Wildlife. Tucked away on the edges of Dartmoor in the southwest of England is a forest approximately 18 hectares wide. Dominated by ancient oaks and silver birch, it is an area with a local reputation of being a killer's hunting ground in more ways than one. The forest is said to predate the medieval period and has a rich and secret history of its own. Many of the locals allege that the forest was once a burial site for the victims of a serial killer that ravaged the local towns in the early 1900s. And if you do happen to take a walk through the woods, it's likely you'll be walking over somebody's grave. Others have reported something unnatural in the soil, which was responsible for killing off a significant number of wildlife in the area, a phenomenon which the rangers, commissioned to investigate by the National Trust, never managed to solve. There was one year in particular where deer corpses were stumbled on with surprising frequency, though the reason for their escalation in deaths was never conclusive. It was also around this time when reports of a creature later dubbed wildlife began to surface. Witness statements began to crop up, slowly at first, but then with more regularity, reporting that something was stalking them in the forest. Many pertained to luminous eyes watching them from the darkness of the trees, the likes of which the witnesses had never seen before. One report illustrates that they were like dark hollows without irises that glowed faintly in the dark and were deeply uncomfortable to look at. Some of them also report the sound of wood creaking or bones clicking together. Due to the regularity of such reports and the similarity of the details within, the police were involved under the suspicion that a wild animal might be at large in the area. Forest rangers were once again sent out to investigate, but no tracks or evidence of any kind was found pertaining to the possibility of a feral animal, and the witness testimonies were eventually filed and dismissed. The case was reopened a short while later with the first death. A young couple had been hiking on the forest trail when they came across the body of a middle-aged man. They described it as being completely savaged to the extent that they couldn't tell what they were seeing until they'd uncovered the face. Only a partial corpse was ever found, with much of the man's body matter missing, presumed to have been the work of animals. The autopsy report delineated that several of the body's bones were missing, and that there were traces of moss and soil in the lungs and intestines. Fungus had also begun to grow inside the stomach lining, apparently impervious to the acid usually responsible for breaking down and digesting proteins. The fungus itself has no identifiable molecular structure and has baffled pathologists and botanists alike. The strange autopsy report, coupled with the ongoing statements of creaking bones and luminous eyes, led to rumours being spread of a monster in the forest. Speculations only intensified with the release of an image by an anonymous blogger, purported to be photographic evidence of a creature who roamed the forest near Dartmoor. The image depicts a skeletal creature with a bulbous head of some indeterminate compound, with a defined nose and a mouth with human-like teeth. Some have even suggested the skeleton looks reminiscent to that of a deer, with the physiological structure of the rib cage and extremities giving it the appearance of walking on all fours. The presence of a second head has baffled many viewers who could not determine whether it was part of the same creature or another one altogether. The post described itself as a crude assemblage of bones, sticking out in strange places and grinding together as it moved. Its movement was described as loping like an animal, and the witness could hear the bones clicking and rattling together as it moved. The blogger revealed that the creature did not chase them once they had broken the tree line. The photo made its rounds through the local towns, making a brief appearance on the local news stations as a mysterious creature called Wildlife, until the National Park Agency petitioned to take it down, writing it off as a hoax meant to scare tourists away from the area. More than one of the rangers under their employment, however, went on to admit that they too had experienced unsettling feelings while patrolling the forest and have come across more than one strange disturbance during their investigations. Nobody knows quite how Wildlife came to be, though many theories have been put forward. The most prevalent suggests that it is made up of the bones of the corpses who were buried in the forest. A serial killer in the 1900s was known to have a connection to the area, and many believed he used it as a mass graveyard, some even suggesting that he hid the bodies of his victims inside the hollows of trees. Since nothing but rags and only partial remains have ever been found belonging to said victims, and due to the prevalence of dead animals in the area, some have theorized that the forest itself is responsible for the creation of this creature, using the detritus and remains of the bodies and fusing them with the natural environment to create this strange creature. The autopsy report of the young man, accidentally leaked to the public, only reinforced the speculation that wildlife makes use of the habitat in which it was born to subdue and kill its victims, perhaps suffocating or burying them in the soil and tearing them apart viciously with its teeth and other bodily implements. There have been a further 6 people reported missing in this forest, although any evidence of their whereabouts or any remains of their bodies have yet to be found.